Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Take the roll, please.
Mayor.
Here.
Benefield.
Here.
Brooks.
Here.
Freitag. Frizzalone. Gould. Hart. Moran. Ogalla. Weigel. Mustis.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, we have the approval of minutes, executive committee minutes from 4:14. Moved. Second, is there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have executive session minutes from the executive committee on 4:14. Moved. Second, any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, under old business, resolution amending the Will County CDBG Home Advisory Board bylaws. Ron, you have about 3 minutes. And you told me you could do it in 2, so I gave you 3.
Now he's gonna sit down.
Good.
We reviewed the bylaws with the state's attorney, and we had to make a couple of amendments. The biggest amendment was to include the city of Joliet on our advisory board, because now
They're part of it. We're administering, yeah.
right. We added a function to the advisory board, because what is coming down with some new fair housing requirements for the county. So we're asking the advisory boards to be the kind of the clearinghouse for this county's policy. So just like the CDBG policies go before the advisory board, any fair housing policy that the county has would also. I'm sorry. So the Fair Housing Clearinghouse would be a function of the advisory board if there are any new policies that the county adopts. And then the final thing was the cleanup on the proxy votes. So the entire matter was reviewed by Phil Mock, and the changes are incorporated in the bylaws for your approval.
Okay, so any questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to move this forward to the full county board.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Under old business, we have the health department plan design. Sue, right, this is, I'm sorry, it is under new business though. The health plan design, actually Scott's here, he doesn't need to come up. What this is all about is we need to now start planning on how we're going to make our health insurance program sustainable for at least the next 10 years. We've did this about, 20 years ago, probably was the last time we did it. The boards, which was on the Insurance and Personnel Committee, we brought in consultants, we sat down, we worked with HR department, we worked with the unions, specifically we worked with ASME's benefit plan coordinator, or expert, I should say, and we sat down and had discussions on how to design a plan that would be sustainable going forward. Sustainable meaning that you can afford to do it, and what kind of participation would you need and so forth. So we're going to start that process again, I think. Scott McKibben is a fellow we use in the county board used in the past. I'm going to bring Scott back to help us work with this. Scott has extensive experience in this area, and he has extensive experience working with the with unions, benefit coordinators. And at one time, he actually was recommended to us by ASME originally. I don't know if he still has the same kind of relationships there, but they felt very comfortable with him. Scott, once he was also the director, I think, at the state of Illinois at one point in time, very knowledgeable. And is Bruce Tidwell here by chance? No. Okay. We'll bring in Bruce. We'll put together a committee that will do this, which will include HR, probably some from the executive's office, county board members, some people from this committee, and we'll also ask the ask me to participate. I know there's more unions here than just ask me, but generally, they drive that health care benefit, but certainly other unions are willing to sit in. And we'll see if we can find ways of making our health care program sustainable over the next 10 years. At the rate, if everything stayed the same, I believe the health insurance program will double in cost within the next 5 to 6 years, which means we would have an $85 million health insurance cost. That's not sustainable. It's just not. It's only sustainable if you have about half the number of employees, which I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm just saying that it's just not sustainable. So we have to find ways of making it sustainable. So that's what that's all about. So I'll open up for any discussion if anybody has any questions. Okay, and I'll start putting something together, okay? But which will be pretty quick, by the way, because we probably need to start working on this now because we're headed into labor negotiations in the very near future. So, okay. Under number 2, recommendations from the Health Department. Sue, are you here? Okay.
Does anyone need Sue's memo in her justification? It is online, but.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, I hope you've had an opportunity to review my proposal or my recommendations. Before I get started, I want to share with you some really good news. Yesterday, our agency received our local health protection grant dollars in the amount of $437,877. So that was a good shot in the arm. And immediately I rescinded 8 positions within our agency, rescinded those layoffs, 7 bargaining unit and 1 manager position. So those individuals were notified yesterday or will be notified today, depending on where they were when the news came through. And I have sent out all the formal notices to those individuals as well. So that was really good news. So hopefully.
And which programs these cover, Sue?
The Local Health Protection Grant is our core programs, and the staff that I rescinded the layoffs in is in HIV prevention, tobacco-free communities, and the vision and hearing program. So like I said, it was a total of 8 people, so that was good. All right, the information that I put together for you today, and I know I was requested to come back with a recommendation, and I wasn't sure if it meant one or if I could give you a couple of choices. I wasn't sure what the appetite was or what the amount of assistance is available that's out there, so I came up with 2 recommendations. The first one, and of course both of these are in the means of a loan to our agency. The first recommendation is for just over $1.7 million. Now, if you recall, the county has already advanced our agency $3 million against our levy. And we have received those dollars, and I appreciate that. It's helping our cash flow very much. I see the 1.7 basically being the difference that we wouldn't pay back right away. In other words, you've advanced us $3 million, and we would give you back everything against our levy except the 1.762.
Sure, I'm confused. I thought you just told us the division and the prevention of tobacco has already been rescinded. I mean, you put those programs back into play.
Yeah, no, this isn't part of it. In this synopsis, I said the vision and hearing, HIV prevention, and tobacco-free communities programs will be reinstated with the local health protection grant payment that is anticipated on Wednesday, May 11th, which is what we did. So that was never in this plan.
Because it would
No.
have put us over 2 million. The original.
Well,
was.
it just wasn't in there because I had committed, because
We
those.
understand, Sue.
Okay.
So it didn't include that. We understand.
Yes, neither one of the recommendations
So
had
those core
included
programs
those.
are back in?
Yes, they are.
Those were federal dollars, correct, that you received?
No,
Those were local
Those are local health protection. That was from the state of Illinois. Those were done by court decree. So they found a way to do that.
They're mandated by the state. They have to fund it if they mandate it, right? Kind of
And
thing.
it's just those areas, I just want to clarify, those areas alone were the only areas that those dollars could address? Like, you couldn't have aspects of mental
Well,
health
you know what,
in there.
let's let Sue finish. Again, finish. We understand that the 1.7 was with anticipation of you receiving the 435,000. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So basically, the 1.7 million loan over a 3 to 5 year period, depending on, what the final dollar amount is and what the, what the county board approves, would basically restore everything. It would restore all of the freezes, it would restore all of the programs, it would restore everything until the end of our fiscal year. And what this will do is allow us to determine better what's happening at the state level. It will allow us to determine whether or not we'll receive the funds that we haven't received yet from the state. It will help us determine what the funding levels moving forward will be. We should start getting, and we have started getting some of the state contracts coming through for services for fiscal 17. And it'll also help us determine whether or not we have a state budget. So basically, it's buying some time for us, and that's really what recommendation 1 is. This is a really unprecedented situation. It affects not only a lot of staff, but it also affects a lot of people in the community, and it will allow us some time to work through the issues. If you lay off staff and staff leave and programs are dismantled, it's very difficult to bring those programs back. So this is that full push effort here to just restore everything till the end of our fiscal year.
Okay. Let me say, so I'm just going to make some, obvious statements, I think, but I'm going to say them anyway. There's a long-standing policy of the health department. It's been here as long as I've been here, and I've been here for 25 years, is that grant-funded programs were there as long as the grant was there. And when the grant went away, the program went away. I don't think that was always true in its entirety. We may have kept components of programs and put them somewhere else and not totally done away with the services. But that's been the policy of the health board since I've been around, and it never became an issue for the county board because it was the policy of the health board. We would always ask when we appropriated those grants, if this grant goes away, and the reply was always, if the grant goes away, then the program will go away. So, this has been a longstanding policy that I think is very difficult of the health board and health department. And I think it's difficult now to come and have the county board basically change or interfere with that policy. If it's a policy that the health board wants to change, then they should tell us they want to change that policy. So that's kind of one issue. So you talk about getting ready. Well, we should have probably gotten ready 9 months ago. I mean, when it became fairly obvious that, it was going to be very difficult, or there was not the will or willingness or cooperation at the state level to pass a budget. So I think we should have assumed that there wasn't going to be a budget at some point earlier than today. The other point for me is I'm not interested in some temporary measure. I asked about what do you think are important enough programs that you think that are sustainable without the grants. That's not what you presented here today, and I would still give you the opportunity to do that. Because I'm really not interested in giving you extra time and then say the programs are going to go away anyway. I want to see what's really doable and sustainable. So, so I have a little different view on these kind of gap measures to get through to make another decision whether we're going to be able to continue the program. So that's kind of my view on this. I can get into the monetary part. There is no money here. There, I don't know where the money would come from. Our cash reserves, we have a $700,000 contingency, and our cash reserves, in my opinion, are pretty low. For example, we're $8 million less than we were a little more than a year ago. And, people can say, well, where'd that money go? Well, we had labor settlements. $8 million went for retro pay. We bought First Midwest building for a future courthouse site. That came out of there. And I actually think that we're now at the point that our cash reserves are dangerously low. And any suggestion that we take them down even further, I would say is absolutely the wrong policy. Outside of Joe Babbage isn't here, but Joe Babbage and I are the only ones that are on this board today where we had to do tax anticipation warrants, a big expense to the, and I'm saying this is more for county board members, by the way, a big expense to help carry our operations. And so, as of today, there's $14 million in there. I thought it was actually going to be less because it was $14 million at the end of April, but maybe we had some from funding come in. But Karen tells me today there's about $14 million in there. Let me tell you, that's barely enough to get you through the tax cycle. We will start getting money at the end of the month, as will the health department. We'll start getting funds from your levy at the end of the month. So you're going to get, and then you'll get a considerable amount of money in June from the tax levy, by the way. I think there's a little wiggle room when you have to pay that $3 million. That's just me. So I'm just speaking for myself. There could be a little relief on consideration, I would say. I would ask the board to maybe give a little consideration on when that $3 million was paid. That would give you maybe some little wiggle room in your budget. So I've kind of said my thing here, how I think we can go forward. I quite frankly am not supportive of funding grants that aren't here, and that's based on the policy of the health board, by the way. So I'm going to open it up, but we can start. Who wants to start?
Can I
Sure
can I
you-
go through my second recommendation?
Oh, I guess I will let you go through that. All right. I thought we were done with you, Sue, but go ahead.
I'm not done
I was
yet.
getting over, I was anxious.
I haven't given it my best
over
shot
anxious.
yet.
Okay. Well, then maybe I haven't I either.
And just so that you know, the repayment, and I heard what you said, but I'm just going to keep
Yeah.
talking here. The repayment, whatever amount in 3 to 5 years, that would also, it goes to me, it goes unsaid that if we were all of a sudden to get the influx of the DHS dollars, DMH dollars, IDPH dollars that are owed to us, and by the end of our fiscal year that, we're almost whole, I wouldn't continue this loan for 3 to 5 years. We would pay that back as quickly as we could. We have to maintain a substantial or a decent cash flow, of course, in our cash account. But if we were basically whole by the end of our fiscal year, I'm not going to say, oh, no, but you gave us 3 years. So I just want to make sure that I put that out there. If I could go through my second recommendation.
Sure.
Recommendation 2 has quite a different price tag on it, if you will, and I've spent a lot of time in both the synopsis and the rationale in determining what this recommendation involves. And basically, it is reinstating the programs of behavioral health, adult services, crisis response, and juvenile justice. It would not reinstate capitated care, psych meds, family case management. And the reason why I made a distinction in these programs is because of the clientele that these programs are assisting. Adult services have been in Will County for several decades. And I think for us to just stop cold these services and not have anywhere for these individuals to receive services from can be difficult. I know there are
What is that program, Susan? So I-
it's the adult behavioral health services. It's the chronic mentally ill adult services, adults that we see. And the crisis response is basically the telephone intake piece of that, which really goes hand in hand. And, these are vulnerable people. These are people that, at this point, because of the state budget impasse and the financial situation of the other providers in the community, we don't know what their capacity is right now. I don't know if they know what their capacity is, because they don't know when they're going to get paid either. So what this will do will allow us to maintain these programs until we can determine better the financial situation, the financial environment of the state, of ourselves, and look at moving forward into our next fiscal year, what that will entail as far as the finances. It will give us some time to do that without just cutting these clients off cold. What we're afraid of, and we have called some of the other providers in the community, some don't have much of a waiting list, others have a waiting list of almost a year. So these individuals need somewhere to go, and if we were just to end these programs, send them a letter, say, sorry, we don't have the programs anymore, I don't know how that would fare with them. It would affect them, it would affect their families, it would affect the workplaces, it will affect the court system, law enforcement, hospitals. It will have a rippling effect throughout the community. And we as taxpayers, may end up paying more to get these people services than just keeping them in our program, which is where they belong.
So are you saying there's a capacity problem? I mean, it's not, are the services available anywhere, private or public, or is there just not any additional capacity?
Well, Mr.
Yeah,
Moose, just,
Margaret.
it depends on who you talk to, because, Cornerstone Services, Trinity Services, Family Counseling Services, and I'm sure I'm missing others, they all have these kinds of programs. But I don't know that they have the capacity to see our 800 clients and how quickly they could see these clients. Some of our clients come in on they're here on a regular basis. They're here a couple of times, 2, 3 times, 4 times a year. For us to just say, now you're not going to be seen, and for them to have to try to find another provider and get on their waiting list, they might be on meds, they can't get meds refilled, this could be a problem.
So
Is
can you address?
there a private sector component? I know you just mentioned all the public sector.
Yes, there are.
Or nonprofits, but I'm also wondering what the capacity of the private sector.
Oh, there's a lot of private sector in providers. However, they take private insurance. They're not going to take Medicaid or self-pays. And
Yeah.
that's
They don't take-
our clientele. That's much of what we see is the self-pay.
So the private sector refuses Medicaid?
Some of them
No.
do, yeah. They don't all take Medicaid.
Not all, but there are times. I mean, I've been in this field for a long time. I mean, helped write the professional counselor licensure law.
Okay.
And was the first chair of the regulatory board for that committee. And helped write the regs for licensing counselors here. So a little familiar with the mental health industry. So,
That's
question
good.
to you, this is, Sue, and I don't disagree with you. I mean, when we don't have services for some of these folks when they need services, life for them becomes very challenging. And the families too. There's a ripple effect, as you said, throughout this process. My question is, when we take a look at all these other services, and I think as Jim was talking about, what is our current staffing for our mental health services right now that you're looking to reinstate for this? What's our current, and what numbers are we talking about? And is there a way to actually reduce these programs to a skeleton until we figure this out? Because I think we're at a process right now with where the state's at,
Right.
that we're needing to restructure our business plan here. I think your board, we just gave you $3 million in March, and you have a $31 million budget, and I know that you're probably around $2 or $3 million in cash reserves right now, and so you need a little bit of flexibility before the tax dollars start coming in, and I understand that.
Right.
But we also need to know that there's some restructuring going on, that we as the state goes and tries to figure out how they're going to deal with their debts can't take on the debts of the state of Illinois.
I understand.
It's too big. So we need to come up with a system that's going to be able to integrate all these different organizations. And to say we should keep things the status quo until we figure that out, that's not fair to our taxpayers, okay? Because maybe the status quo is more than we need. We haven't figured that out yet. We don't know exactly what programs are needed and what can be supported by other groups. We don't know, because as a private insurance taker, I would have taken Medicare as a mental health counselor seeing patients with my license. So as a private health provider, I could do mental health counseling. I could hold groups. I could have 10 people in a group doing talk therapy. You know, not that I know what talk therapy is. I heard that on TV the other day, and didn't read that in any of my textbooks. But the idea that we had that opportunity for them to talk is important. So we had asked you to come back with those priorities, and you've started to do that. I think there's more that needs to be done in helping us understand capacity issues and how we're going to restructure this from a business standpoint.
Well, it's difficult for the behavioral health piece to, when you're talking about, maybe backing it down to a different level and maybe, restructuring the program so that we don't have as many, counselors or whatever. It's difficult because who do you choose? Who do you choose to see? How do you make that determination as to how many individuals, how many clients we're going to cut it back to? It's kind of one of those things where you're either in it or you're not. There's also...
But you also have other referral capabilities, and we have most of these families, all of the families in this country should now have insurance. That's what the Affordable Care Act was.
Everybody has it.
That's what they're supposed to have.
It's the law.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
that's the case, though.
It's the law, though.
It's the law, though.
Yeah.
And so we don't even know what that impact is on how, and so when I talk about restructuring the business plan, I'm not necessarily saying cut back your caseload. I'm saying what's our bare bone that we can deal with, and then what services and fees can we offer to be able to actually bring revenue in for this, to be able to cover some of these expenses.
Sue, let me say this. I'm just going to say it in a different way. The status quo is not sustainable. So it cannot be the status quo. So yes, you do have to choose. You do have to say, here's our capacity. Whether it's less or more, whatever. Yeah, you have to make those decisions. They're tough decisions, but I can tell you that unless the state starts funding these programs again, the status quo won't cut it.
And
Won't work.
And I
Won't work.
understand that.
So you'll have to make decisions on the facts of today. And the fact is, the money's not there from the state. So how do you make this program is sustainable while providing the maximum amount of service in a sustainable scenario? So yeah, that's going to require making some really tough decisions, and that does mean not everybody's going to get the service.
And we're prepared to do that. However, as I stated, at this time, we don't even know what the capacity of the other providers are in the community because of the rest of, they're all seeing the same.
You know what?
We can always
Let me
It's-
say this.
It's not that easy. Once a program goes away, Mr. Maher, you can't get it back. We already have managers in these programs that have already retired. We would be working through whatever we can to take,
You can always start.
Even looking at the market capacity, Sue, if we take that out of the equation, the health department has to sit down and say, we have to come up with a sustainable program. Here's our capacity, regardless of what everybody else's capacity is. We can only look at what we can do, Hopefully there is more capacity out there so everybody gets service. But, to make it sustainable, it may have to be a smaller program.
Well-
Those are tough decisions made. But look, when the state of Illinois, a number of years ago, basically said, we're out of the mental health business, and closed like Tinley Park mental health facilities, and they closed them all over the state. You know, there was a decision of the state. The county health providers, along with other nonprofits and so forth, we picked up what we could. We didn't pick it all up, because we don't have the resources to do it.
Right.
So all I'm saying is to look at the programs, and you're going to have to perhaps decide
But
what is
Mr. Moussis, that's
sustainable.
why I'm saying, this is my decision, this is my recommendation. You asked me last week to come back with a dollar amount and a recommendation, and this is my recommendation. I came away
What's the
from
dollar amount of that program?
426,000.
Okay, yeah.
I came away from that meeting with an indication that the county board was willing
I understand.
to provide us with some assistance, and that's the assistance that I'm requesting.
Okay.
I understand having to look at programs, I understand having to make those tough decisions, and those tough decisions will be made at the budget building process, which
Okay.
is, right around the corner. But right now, we're looking to sustain what we have, make some decisions moving forward, and save some of the programs in a very
Okay.
minimal way to lessen the impact on our community.
Let's go through the programs. Okay, so the mental health, go ahead, you can continue.
The programs that would be reinstated, we would take the layoffs away from behavioral health adult services,
Okay,
crisis response, which really goes hand in hand, and juvenile justice, which is a very successful program that works with juveniles. And we've decided to keep the child and adolescent right now, so it really does, work well with that. The programs that would not be reinstated would be capitated care, psychiatric meds, and family case management. And then, as I said, the vision and hearing, HIV prevention, and tobacco have already been reinstated. And that rounds out. Now, additionally, with this $426,873, all of the positions that were frozen, we had 3 positions in administration, we had 2 positions in environmental health, and we had, I think, 6 positions in the community health center. Those will all still remain frozen. We're committed to doing that. This, again, is an effort to do what we need to do right now, maintain minimally these programs moving forward, so we lessen the impact on the community and on the clients.
okay. So what was the total dollars again?
426,873 for option 2.
Okay.
And I just want to clarify, what you're asking in this proposal is the fact that you owe us $3 million from the loan that we did earlier, and you want to reduce your loan payment to us initially here by this, whatever options.
Correct, right,
Yeah.
we would,
That's what you're.
You wouldn't pay that amount.
exactly, we would, I guess you'd say, finance the 426,873, like moving forward into next fiscal year, and then depending on what happens with the state payments, and that's the other thing, there's legislation that is in the works right now, and I know that we've heard a lot about different state bills and Senate bills, and or House bills and Senate bills, and we're not sure where they're all at. But, I don't know, this could change next week. This could change,
Me personally, I think something will go through. I don't think it's going to be 100%, but
well,
I
and
think something
I'd
will
hate
go
to, send letters out to all of our adult consumers in the behavioral health program and say, you're no longer going to be seen, and then we receive, $700,000 or $1 million from DHS, and gee, all of a sudden now we can do it. It's hard to pull back. This is the more responsible way.
Mr. Frizzlone?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have a lot of things. First, if we don't know what the capacity is at other agencies, shame on us. I think that's something that should be ongoing, and we should know what's out there, so that, I would think that would be a function of the health.
We know what's out there, but they don't know what their financial stature is
So
right now.
they're in the same boat
because-
as us.
Exactly, that's what I'm
They're going to have to
saying.
deal with it the same as we do.
And that's why I'm saying we don't know their capacity, because they don't know their capacity at this point. Typically, when we have a normal, everything's running normally, we've got grants being paid, we've got providers in the community being paid, we know what their capacity is, and they know what their capacity is. Right now, it's all up for grabs.
Okay.
Secondly, it was mentioned about everybody should have insurance. If they don't have insurance and they're coming to us for service, we're not helping them get on the ACA?
Yes, we are. We do have
So
counselors.
they all have insurance then, at this
Well-
point?
Not everybody is eligible for that insurance that we see.
Who's not eligible?
Who's not eligible?
We see some undocumented people.
Okay.
We see people that aren't eligible for those services.
Basically, the people that are in the country perhaps
Illegally.
illegally. Okay, that's,
So we're providing for illegals. Okay. Secondly, what's the vacancy rate right now in the health department?
The rate, I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. We probably have,
You're down 10%, 15%, 5%?
Are you talking about-
Your people.
are you talking about
employees.
Open
employees.
spots.
open spots?
Yeah.
We probably have about 17.
17%?
No, 17 open slots, not including any of these layoffs.
About 4 or 5%.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
That
then,
doesn't include the people that were laid off.
Correct.
That includes the people that were laid
No,
off.
does
it
not.
does not, okay.
so, and let me just, and this is, I checked with some of the other counties, and one, for example, DuPage County. Number one, they anticipated this, so they set aside a reserve based on the $5 million of their money being at risk. They figured they'd set aside $1.25 million. They immediately, at the beginning of their budget year, started having position decreases, but they did it across the whole
Spectrum.
whole department, not just grant programs. so
right,
that
and
they didn't hurt
we
them.
did that, but we did that to sustain the wage increases for this year.
That's a whole nother issue,
That we
right.
were not funded for. So we actually budgeted our staffing at 97% to cover those wage increases. We didn't anticipate this level of non-payment.
All right, so secondly, they're running a 10% vacancy rate to help make up for it. They also have, and we talked about this, I think, in the health department, their environmental revenues, they are now fully covering all of their environmental services. They've raised their rates to cover all of that, so that's totally covered. But lastly, they told me, if this goes another month, they're going to do the same thing we're doing, because there just isn't the money there, and you can't keep eating up funds.
Yeah.
And, you're asking for a loan for 3 years. When you go to the bank, they say, how are you going to pay it back? How's that going to happen, Sue? I mean, if you're operating as tight a budget as you can right now, how are you going to pay back a loan?
I understand all that. It was my understanding that the county board was willing to assist us in this time. and-
Well, you're asking for a
and
loan. Where
right.
would the funds come to pay it back,
Well-
is all we're saying.
If it were not the 1.7, but the 426, which is substantially less, we would be able to be saving money within our fund balance, little by little. If we get the money from DHS and from IDPH that comes through, we would be able to pay it back probably pretty quickly.
What if it doesn't come?
Well, if it doesn't come back, then we would have to find a way to pay you back, because we would do that. We've always been fiscally responsible, and we will continue to be that way. And DuPage County has a much different tax base. They have a different budget. I don't compare us to DuPage County Health
I'm not
Department.
comparing their dollars, but the plan that they took, and, it's hindsight now, but the plan they did, even as good as they planned, everything that, all of their operations are operating right now at 100%. They're going to be shutting them down next month.
Yeah.
It's the same scenario. The money isn't there, and
Okay.
if you give a loan, you got to have a way to pay it back.
I understand.
Suzanne?
Really quick, Sue, on the tail end of what Mike was just asking. In the last year and a half, say year, we'll just cut it, has there been any of the thinning of the employees? How many replacement hires or new, has there been any?
Well, actually, we did a bumping process just last October, 2015.
So not in
We
the
laid
last
off
year?
20 people.
I mean, there has been
Yeah.
at the.
We have been
There's been a
thinning our
workforce re-
agency for the last 4 years,
They-
based on revenues and expenses and being able to balance the budget.
Because I do know, I chair legislative. And so as we're sitting here talking about the state, and that's really at the end of the day where this is all coming from,
Right.
let's be honest.
Right.
If you have gone to any of my meetings, you have heard, every single month, we state that there will not be a budget. Okay, this is not a surprise to anyone in this room, There's not going to be, it's going to come. They're not going to be paying back. I sit on the ETSB board. We deal with those dollars not coming in. There's a lot of different departments. We also have been preparing for this. This didn't come in October. This news was out there well over a year ago. We knew that our governor was coming in. He was going to go and he was going to change the way that Springfield, spending dollars that we don't have. And my thing where I get upset with this is that, I'm not saying being naive, but no one should be spending dollars coming from the state right now and expecting us to get it. I also am in fair with our local distribution funds. What do we have, 10 million? We don't know if we're going to get that. We shouldn't spend like we're going to get that. No one should count on any of these dollars coming from Springfield. There, in fact, is a bill, Senate Bill 2047. You were just saying. It went through the Senate, both House, great. No problem. Now it sits in, the House, and it's not going to be, it was in rules. It got thrown to executive. There's one person that can call that, and he's not going to call it without loading it. So no one in this room should count on that bill or any help right now on any of that. So this is just where I kind of I'm upset about it because we keep talking about what the county's doing. Well, we have to be proactive. We can't spend counting on those dollars. That's all. I can't get that message out enough.
Okay, Judy?
Yeah, okay, so here's the thing. If I recall right, Sue, I'm going to ask you some questions, if you don't
Yes,
mind.
sure.
I recall that sometime last summer, I sat with John Cicero, and you guys had begun earlier that year looking at all the different programs.
Correct.
And in looking at those programs, how many programs did we eliminate?
Well, let's see, there were a total of, I think, 53 programs, and I believe we eliminated 5 or 6.
Okay, we eliminated those 5 or 6 because of the fact that we were serving so few people. And in that process, were any
Well, it wasn't
employee-
because we were serving so few people, it was because we needed to make sure our budget balanced.
Okay, so, and you were able to, you picked those because they were the ones that clients that we have could go elsewhere and find services, is that
Right,
right?
we had different criteria that we looked at, and the way that the programs were, I don't want to say prioritized, but certainly there are programs that we do that others can do, that have capacity in the community, or that, we don't have to put levy dollars towards.
Right, so you guys did go through that process, and that was before the budget? That was
Correct.
before the budget?
Yes, we started that in January of 2015.
Right. So you guys have been looking at it and trying to figure out what to do, knowing these issues were out there. So,
Right.
and I understand that. That's very good. And then you guys also have not replaced people because you don't have the funds to do that.
Correct.
So,
One thing that I'd like the board to understand is that there are positions in our agency that are revenue-generating positions. So to just say, well, you're not going to replace that person, or this person left, so you have to freeze that position, that's not a one done and all. You have to look at the position, is it revenue-generating? And if it is, then you need to fill that position.
right.
So that's part of the criteria.
Right, and then there are certain environmental services that we do provide, and that you guys, and probably haven't gotten to it yet, because this all has come within the same time, so you prepared this, so you weren't looking at that, but we are looking at increasing fees for the environmental services to help make them cover more of the costs, correct?
Yes, we have, at our Board of Health meeting next week, we have 3 fees that we're researching. We're waiting for some final information from the state's attorney's office on the process, but we have 3 fees that we are going to initiate to help us cover those costs of the inspections in certain programs.
Right. So here's the thing, we did ask Sue to come back to us and to, give us a list of things of what she would really like, which is page 1, option 1, which is,
Yes.
she hopes we're all playing the lottery, and hopefully the state would pay that lottery winner, but they weren't doing that for a while either. So she gave us that.
I don't know if the lottery is a good thing.
Right. So she was doing that as we asked her to do, and everyone's going to give us their big wish list, as I would. And then she came up with this other wish list, not wish list, but a list of things that she feels are definitely critical.
Right.
So of these, you mentioned that there's this adult services, the crisis response, and juvenile justice.
Right.
That's what you're asking, and that's the 426,000?
Correct.
Okay. So the other things are the captivated care, psychiatric meds, family case management. We're not including that at all in that 426.
Correct. Those programs, those layoffs would stay. We would lay those individuals off.
Okay, so because I'm not in finance, I don't know what money we have available to do this, but I would really like, I understand the state's in a mess, and really, those of us in this room who can talk to certain people, there has to be changes in Springfield because we can't keep, it's great to come up with all kinds of programs, except for the fact that where do you pay for them? Taxpayers. Taxpayers pay for them day in and day out, and they hit everybody. Upper class, middle class, lower class income people, they get hit with all those taxes. So let's not make this a darn play game of Democrat, Republican. This is about the people in our county, period. Nothing else. There has been playing politically, I believe, when there is a TV conference and chair of public health and safety, I don't even know what's going on. That's crap. That's absolute crap.
It gets politicized.
So, here's the thing. Some of the people on the leadership asked me not to say some of the stuff, but here's the thing. I got elected to represent my constituents. And in that, my constituents include everybody in the whole county, because my vote counts for everybody in the whole county, not just County Board District 1. So if the people in this room want to make a difference, we sit down together, we make this decision together, and we don't go play games in the media. That's just plain bull. Plain and simple.
Uh-oh.
That's right, bull. So I want us to do, what I want us to do, Sue, is I want us to go and see, what can we do? Because you know what? Because the state is lacking, that doesn't mean, if we have the funding available and we can do this, I would like to see us do as best as we can with that. Maybe we don't come back with that 426, but maybe we come back with something.
Well,
But,
the
you know-
426 number is
You
what
know-
I thought is a very,
You don't even need to answer that. We're going to move this along. And I will say one thing, that when people want to politicize a crisis, you're not helping your cause. And self-interest certainly comes out. Mr. Brooks?
Thank you, Mr. Eustace. Sue, my language will be a little more cleaner. First of all, you were asked to bring a recommendation to this committee, in which you have done. You have done your homework. You brought 2 recommendations to us. And first of all, let me say thank you for doing your homework. Albeit, it may not answer all of the questions that this committee have, you've done due diligence. My question to you is this. We've talked about programs, but I want to talk about people. In your first recommendation, you can retain 45 jobs. Is that right?
yes, because we.
Okay, I want to be correct.
Yes, we rescinded the others' positions yesterday, so that
Correct.
would be the remainder.
45. In your second recommendation, according to your figures here, you can retain 17 jobs and freeze 1 position. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay, so in people-wise, your first recommendation will retain more people. And that's what
Absolutely.
we're all concerned about here today.
Absolutely.
However, my question to you is, 1.7 over 3 to 5 year period, that's a pretty big loan payment.
I understand.
And not getting anything else back from the state, being where we are right now, wouldn't that be a little heavy on you?
It might be, and certainly I am open to, I'm open to anything in between. Anything between
Well, I
the.
was hoping that openness in between would be something that you can bring back. If this board decides to give you 1.7 million, so we certainly would be comfortable knowing that you're able to pay that monies back.
I would work with my Board of Health,
Okay.
because at the end of the day, it's for their decision and my recommendation to move forward with whatever dollar amount the county board would provide us with assistance. And we're getting to the point where logistically it's getting difficult, because right now we have all of the testing and all of the pre-work things that have to get done before a bumping process takes place.
Right.
The bumping process would take place it was going to start on May 19th, but now, since we would be working through this with the county board, I assume any final decision would be made at the county board meeting on the 19th, so we wouldn't do bumping until the 20th. And then my Board of Health meeting is on May 18th. So I really would like to come away from this meeting with a sense of direction,
You will.
okay?
You will. May not be.
Because I'm running out of time here, and I need to make sure everything works.
You're hoping for, but, well, Don's, but did you still want to?
Briefly, hi
That-
Susan.
Hi, Don.
The 426,000 in the second recommendation,
Yes.
we're about halfway through the fiscal year right now.
Yes.
Will that carry you through the rest of your fiscal year?
If we
For
just,
those programs you want to keep?
yes, this is slated to go just through the end of our fiscal year.
Okay.
Yes.
And then, John kind of gave you a roadmap before he left.
Not for this.
Well,
Yeah, he said, how do you?
are you saying he left just in time?
No, I didn't say that. I did not say that.
Yeah.
All I said is I don't think any of us had a
I
roadmap
think
for
the timing,
this.
I think the timing is suspect, quite
Yeah, he's a smart guy, you know, he knew what to do.
I would say it was suspect, I would tell him that too if he was in the room.
Anyway, I'm glad you're in the position you're in. You should all know, before Sue was in this position, she was with finance, so, at the health department. So she's very well
Yeah.
experienced
She's finding
in
out
these
though,
kinds of
it's
things.
lonely on the top.
Right.
It's really
So-
lonely.
Not really.
Anyway, the reason for my first question, though, is because come the 17 fiscal year, you will have to make some very hard decisions,
Yes,
knowing the plan, if you will, that John left you, for this situation, for some of these situations, and also knowing that we can't count on the state to anticipate those dollars.
yeah, no,
So,
I
but I
completely
really want to
understand
know
that.
that, I'm inclined to support your second recommendation, but I just want to know that that's going to carry you through the rest of this fiscal
And I
year.
think
Yes,
we're gonna-
and I completely understand that moving forward into our next budget cycle, we need to be very careful about the programs and the grants that we take on. We need to talk about sustainability. I understand all of that completely. What I don't want to do is to shut the door in these adult behavioral health services and just walk away. If we can do this plan in the meantime, I think we'll have some time to look at this.
We're gonna
through
try
the
to move
right
this along.
lens.
I'm gonna try to move this along now. Darren, you have anything that that hasn't been said?
I do, actually.
Okay.
Jim, thank you. Just a moment. I just had a quick question, Susan.
No.
You had answered County Board Member Mayor's question earlier regarding ACA-eligible individuals by stating that we do provide services to those that are not ACL eligible.
Right.
When doing so, you responded that undocumented folks is one of those categories that's not eligible for ACA approval. What percentage of individuals of your current active client base do you think are undocumented at this point that we're providing services for?
Mr. Benefield, right now, that'd be a guess. Honestly, I don't know. I can certainly get that information to you, but I don't know. I don't know.
A guess would be,
Yes. Currently, 92% of our consumers are under some sort of health plan. And in terms of those without any health, I would put the figure about 6% currently.
6%?
6%. I also, I just came from a community meeting with a lane meeting with our other mental health providers in Will County. And,
Can you state your name,
I'm
by the way?
Dr. Joe Triani,
Doctor.
Director of Behavioral Health.
Yeah, come on up.
Yeah.
And retired U.S. Navy also.
U.S. Navy. okay.
Go Navy, beat Army.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I had to get that in there.
For the record.
It's a public forum.
For the record.
I just had the opportunity to meet with the private not-for-profit providers here in Will County, Cornerstones, Stepping Stones, Trinity Services, all of which do a very good job. They're already getting calls from our consumers who are reading the newspapers and kind of see the handwriting on the wall. As it stands up this morning, one of the agencies has a one-year waiting list for adult psychiatric services, and the other one is now 6 to 8 months in terms of waiting list.
And we've been looking at contingency plans in terms of, in the event that we shut down adult services, we have just under 1,000 consumers, and the question is, where are they going to go for services? And the two major providers, as I mentioned earlier, have a 1-year and a half-year waiting list.
Yeah, I have another question.
Can I have a follow-up on that, Jim,
Only
before-
because talking about your service time. Veterans, are veterans triaged like to the VA, or do we take on
Correct.
veterans?
There's a couple of things. We have a large veterans facility in the area called a CBOC. When the CBOC opened, we all went over and visited and met with them. And veterans are referred to the CBOC where they could get health care services as well as behavioral health services.
Okay.
And the other thing, the county provides through the Veterans Resource Center transportation, so there's a capability of getting people up to Hines VA. But absolutely, that eligible veterans are screened and referred to VA for services. And especially, we've got a beautiful VA CBOC center here in town.
Question, I have a
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Chuck.
just when we talk about the number of insured versus uninsured, and you've had a great conversation with the not-for-profit groups that provide these services, there are a large number of counselors in the area that can provide counseling on the private side. You know, they have private practices and stuff. Have you done anything to maybe set up a network with that group that might even be able to use our facilities to see clients that would take insurance, that we could start to build a referral list process so that maybe one of the things that in this, as we start taking a look at this whole restructuring aspect, that we set up a referral base, identifying those folks, even using our facilities, because if we do close a service, we
Yeah.
have a room.
Yeah, it's a very good question. The Illinois Psychological Association, which I'm the president-elect, I'll be coming in as president of the association, has been in meetings with HFS, because right now, a licensed clinical psychologist, of which we have numerous in the area, are not eligible to take Medicaid. Medicaid prohibits the licensed psychologist, the licensed social worker, or the licensed clinical counselor. And if they could shift their rulings to allow, that might help in terms of some of the private sector being able to.
You bring up a good point, that if the
Certainly
state's going to
increase
start
capacity.
cutting off services, maybe one
Right.
of the things we need to do is with our legislative chair and committee is to start addressing allowing that expansion of services and insurance use. That would help out a lot.
Is that up to the state? That's up to the state to decide?
Correct.
Medicaid, right?
Correct, that's a state's
So that would
decision.
be something that have to come out of this.
So they've been very, they've been exclusive in terms of other behavioral health providers. The Medicaid, the only ones that are able to provide are Medicaid-approved facilities, and we've got a number of them in the area, of which two I mentioned earlier, that are the main providers that we've been talking with them in terms of being able to absorb some of our
We
patients.
oversee, because of the way the legislation is currently set up, we would be a Medicaid type of provider, correct?
Correct, we are a licensed Medicaid Rule 132
So,
provider.
with that, we could take the funds and pay consultants or clinical folks that would not be employees per se. If you're restructuring your medical model, one of the things that supervision
Yeah.
and the clinical practices are that you have to work under a clinical person. Does that hold in this particular case, where you could have 4 or 5 private folks that are not employees with us?
Yeah.
They could then be, you could be the one collecting, providing the services, overseeing it, which then has a managerial need, not necessarily a ton of staff need.
I think we can look at
We'd have to look
different
I
models.
would have to look at that, yeah.
You
Because
know,
I think that's a model as we can start going forward with this for future budget.
I am going to try to move this along now, I think.
I just wanted one last, I'm just trying to
He's done
tie.
if I say so, by the way.
I-
Go ahead.
Thank you, Jim. I just want to try to attach a dollar figure to the 6%, because the 6% sounds like a low number, but we're looking at real dollars here. And so I just really want to know, is it fair for me in my mind to assume that if we've got a $31 million budget and roughly 6 to 8% of the individuals that we're providing services for are non-documented, is it fair for me to say that 6 to 8% of our
Generally,
$31 million budget is going
It's a whole
toward those
different issue.
services? What, can you give me an idea?
You know,
just-
can
No,
I'm
the
going
six-
to interrupt this whole thing, and I'll tell you why. It is it's an issue, a policy issue, on whether our health department chooses to or should do undocumented. Now, I've talked to...
It's more than a policy, Mr. Moostis. Some of the programs that we administer, if we have the program, we're required by law to see
I
these
don't-
individuals.
I'm not so sure that's any longer the case under the Affordable Care Act, that we are mandated by the federal government or the state government to give services to undocumented or people who are illegally. Now, I can tell you that I've been with a number of health departments out in California, talking about policy and so forth. And of course, they have a much larger problem with undocumented workers or undocumented people than we do. And they provide services, many of them provide services when the money is available, and when it's not available, they kind of cut it off a little bit. You know, I mean, it's not the best policy. But maybe we'll talk about this as a different subject.
Fair enough.
Is what I'm saying. If you want to come back to and show the board where it says that you will take care of undocumented people, then I'd like to see that. And it doesn't mean I don't think we should take care of them, by the way. I just think it's something that's I don't think it's been an official policy of the county one way or the other. And like I say, and I'm not for turning anybody away from basic health care. But there may be certain services you extend and maybe some we don't. I don't know. But I don't really want to get into that issue. That's a separate issue. I don't think it has anything to do with this request for this funding. I do want to move this along, but so there's another. Well, first I'll make a statement. I could be supportive of these programs for the 26,000. But there's a couple other questions. Well, I could be supportive with the idea that these programs will be supported through the tax levy. Doesn't mean you're going to turn down grant money if it comes. But these are programs that are sustainable through the levy dollars, not necessarily grant dollars. And so you have to, going forward, look at it, even when you do receive those grant funds, it's really something that needs to be funded through the county levy versus dependent on a grant. If they're that important, it should be a part of the core.
I understand.
Okay, so you would have to work on that going forward.
Well, that
Yeah.
was actually part of my, part of the reasoning why I put family case management in with the programs that would sustain the layoff, is because about $600,000 of our levy goes into family case management. And moving forward, if we didn't have that program, which, by the way, is an extremely duplicative program, if we don't have that program, that frees up $600,000 of our levy to then fund a program like this. So that's what I'm thinking.
So this would be a policy saying, and I would assume you would talk to your board, health board, and saying that these are programs that should go forward and be sustainable through the levy. So everyone understands it's not grant-based.
Right.
Even if you're getting grant money, it's not a grant-based program. Okay, so everybody. No, you would still apply the grant money, but I'm just saying that if it has to be a program that's sustainable, that it's not a program that's there because of a grant.
We have to look at sustainability for all of the programs moving forward, all of them.
Well, you're only going to be able to put so much into the levy, so.
I understand.
So, I think this is, I think, a sustainable dollar amount through the levy. The other and this is, it has to do with funding, but not necessarily programs. You have a you have a pay increase coming, correct?
Correct,
In July, is it?
correct. June 1.
Now, are you going to be able to cover that?
Well, when we looked at, when I was going through the recommendations and looking for the dollar amounts, when we redid our figures, we included the 2.5% increase. So, yes, that's taken into consideration here, and that's part of the other reason why I didn't do anything else with the remaining dollars of our local health protection grant that we just received, because that money is going to have to go to the increases that are already, on the books, and any of the other payouts that we're going to have with our retirements or resignations as a result of any of these layoffs, if in fact we continue with layoffs.
Because the policy of the board is I don't believe it's going to change.
I'm sorry, didn't hear you.
The policy of the board isn't changing, even if there's been increases in pay increases, doesn't correlate to a additional appropriation.
I understand.
So.
Yeah. And we've been
That's for
living with that
everybody. You've been
for
living with that for a while, but
15 years.
yeah, so that doesn't change. I'm
Yeah.
just want to make sure
I took a look, yeah.
That's it. So that's calculated in your overall.
Yes,
cost
we took
estimate.
that in consideration.
Okay.
Yes, we did.
So now here's my thoughts, if not my recommendation, is that we continue the programs. I want to, for me personally, the number one option is not even a consideration for me. But I'll throw it out there as a consideration for anyone besides her.
It doesn't hurt to ask.
It doesn't hurt to ask.
Right?
But I do think keeping those programs, which would be the 426,000, I think we should give some consideration to. And the way that would be paid is you just would not pay back the $426,000 in the current $3 million loan.
Right.
I'm going to kind of throw that out there. I saw, well, I understand.
I think that's an amount that's very workable for us.
If I could,
So that's I want to throw it out. That's something I would support. I'm not gonna-
government's essential duties is to the health, safety, and wellness of their community. That's why we have government, is to protect our citizens. In the protection of our citizens, we're talking about services, not people. It's the ability to provide, and when I say that, I mean it's not necessarily direct employees that we're hiring. It's, are we being able to take care of the service required? Mental health is a huge issue within this community, and for everything that you laid out, I don't need to go through all that again, from jails all the way down. I really think that I'm not sure exactly if I want to support the whole 400,000. I'm not saying that we shouldn't support some of this from a service standpoint. I think there's ways to restructure this, some of those things I've said recently here, and because if you have people that if you can collect money from insurance and pay a private vendor as a consultant under you, and you're going by the line of the law, we're still providing the service for our community, which is our goal. Our goal is not to hire people. Our goal is to provide services. And whether those services are direct services or referral services, we're still meeting the needs of our citizens. And so I would like to really know what that dollar is. Not just keeping the status quo and saying we're doing this to keep these people for this program, but what really is the dollars that we could collect from insurance from this, if that's even possible? What dollars are going out? Some of it may be taken into consideration what Commissioner Benefield had talked about, but I think I want to see this going forward.
Those are all things,
So,
Mr. Maher, that our Board of Health looks at. I mean, we stay
Fortunately,
very
you
much
come in
in.
here in the middle, and you haven't even had a board meeting.
Well, our board is aware of what's going on. I mean, I presented this to our Board of Health at last month's meeting, and of course, the outcome of this executive committee meeting will be discussed with our full board next week, and I've been keeping our board president, Jim Zelko, abreast of all of these things. We have almost daily conversations regarding the status of this. So they're very much informed, and you know, we take very seriously how we implement our programs and the services and what we provide, and our role as a health department is assurance.
And so do we, Sue. We take it very serious, our role, and we also take it serious
You know what, I want to
purse
move,
strings of our.
I want to
No,
move
all
this.
I'm trying to say is that
Let me just move this along. I mean, I want to move this along so we can make a determination whether we're going to move something forward or we're not going to move something forward. So, you know, I mean, if people want to talk and tell me they're in favor or not favor, that is said in your vote. That can be said in a motion. So I guess that I'm going at this point, or you can speak to it when the question's put on the floor. So I'll entertain a motion to consider option 2. If someone would like to make that motion. Move in a second. Okay. So then we'll take the roll.
Mayor
No.
Benefield,
No.
Brooks,
Can I ask a question, or you need to put it on the
No,
floor?
you can ask your question. It's on the
Okay,
floor.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, is the option 2 the only recommendation you're going to make to this committee this morning?
It's the only thing that's on the floor right at the moment.
But
I don't
after-
think I don't think, if there's not support for 2, there won't be support for 1. That's all I can tell you. I don't think that,
I understand, Mr. Mustis, but sometimes I just feel better when I go through the ceremony.
I know. I don't think there's gonna be a motion.
A third
And
option.
I understand,
I can't say what's gonna be done. You can always make the motion after this one.
okay?
Yeah.
No.
Freitag. No. Frizzalone. No. Gold.
Yes.
Hart.
No.
Ogalla.
Yes.
Weigel.
Yes.
And Mustis.
Yes.
I have 4 affirmative, 6 negative.
Okay, does not go forward. Okay. Sorry, Sue.
Will I be allowed to make the motion?
Sure. You can
Make the motion?
Go ahead if you like.
For recommendation number 1, because I would like to move and make that motion for recommendation number 1.
Okay. Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a
In that
second.
case, I want to change my last vote to yes.
Too late. Too late.
I have a question.
Just 1 second.
I'd like to know if this could be moved forward to the entire board, despite the fact that the committee has voted it down. This is an extremely important issue. I just think that every board member should have an opportunity to vote on this, because every board member has constituents that this will affect.
Right.
I'll entertain that motion.
Move forward?
I would, discussion. Little discussion on this. I mean, like to move
Who
it,
made the motion?
I made the motion.
Okay.
I'm not sure what we're moving, if we're just moving the whole thing out there, which I don't know that does us, what, I don't even know what the
Just
exact
vote no,
motion.
vote no then.
Number 2.
I'm happy
To move number 2 out there.
Move number 2 out there, but something needs to go out there.
So what she's saying is that it goes to the board even though it has a
Right.
negative recommendation.
Negative recommend, because there was only one motion that was actually went forward. So, okay. So we have a motion and a second. This is whether you want to move it forward with a negative, negative.
Well, I made the motion and second.
Yeah.
And it was second,
Now
so
I'm
discussion.
taking the vote.
Oh,
Discussion.
So the motion would be to move the motion of option 2 forward to the full county board with a negative recommendation. Okay. Take the roll.
Discussion.
Take discussion.
Well, discussion. I have, like I said before, I could see moving this forward with some money. I would like an option 3 brought forward.
That's
One
not-
that would have take another look at how you are, because what I'm hearing you say is that some of these dollars are to support services, and you're anticipating that there's not going to be other services for
Okay.
people.
It's not, pertains to the motion that's on the floor right now,
Well-
Chuck.
It is, because it's part of the discussion here, but-
Take the roll. I just wanted to move this along.
Mayor,
Yes, I'll put it out there for everybody to vote on.
Benefield,
No.
Brooks,
Yes.
Freitag,
Yes.
Frizalone,
No.
Gould,
Yes.
Hart,
No.
Ogella,
Yes.
Weigel,
Yes.
and Mustis.
No.
Six affirmative, four negative.
Okay. Then option 2 will go forward to the full county board with recommendation of denial.
6-4.
Oh, that's 6-4.
Okay. All right, thanks, Sue. Okay, 3, authorizing IGA with Shanahan regarding the investment of public infrastructure improvements for the proposed development of Lewis Marine property at I-55 and Route 6. I'll entertain them. Okay. This one's different than the last one, Tom? A little bit different. Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I'll try to keep this short. As the chair indicated, we're here requesting the assistance of the county as well as all the other taxing bodies with respect to an investment in infrastructure improvements that'll facilitate the development of the Lewis Marine property located north of IDI on the east side of I-55 between Route 6 and Bluff Road. Just as a point of what was done in the past, you will recall last year we were in front of you regarding the IDI development and some infrastructure improvements that the village is looking to fund to facilitate that development. And the board graciously, as well as the other taxing bodies, also graciously agreed to assist the village in repayment of some bonds related to that project. We're in a similar position with this proposal that we are looking to invest in some additional infrastructure improvement, and I included a couple of exhibits today. I apologize, I don't have a finalized draft of the agreement for you to consider at this point, and I'm certainly not asking you to make any recommendation without having any of the information. I can certainly bring that back to you when that is completed. But we are looking at a similar type of thing through a developer note, in this case, rather than bonds. That's the difference with respect to this, but it is still essentially the same type of concept with respect to how we're funding this.
Okay. Well, Mary, you review all these before they go forward, correct?
This is the first, the first I've known about this is when I saw it.
Okay. Good.
There was,
Yeah, because we wouldn't move it until we had the agreement.
Absolutely. It's completely understood.
So, I'm going to give the opportunity so everybody understands. Does everybody understand? This is this is really a form of an abatement, but we give it basically to the Village of Shanahan, and they make sure that the public infrastructure improvements are being completed and done. Is that kind of the?
That's exactly correct.
Gist of it. So does everybody kind of understand what it is? So as long as everybody has an understanding, when the agreement is complete and our state's attorney's office has reviewed it, then we'll put it back on for the board to consider, which would be, I would think it's not going to be this month, Tom, because.
Sure. No, I understand, and I apologize. I thought we would have that all taken care of at this point, and I certainly didn't want to preclude anything from
So why don't we bring it back when everything's complete? And I think it's just going to be somewhat of a formality, but you never know. Strange things can happen, as you know.
Sure.
So once that agreement's completed, our state's attorney has the opportunity to review it, then we'll bring it back.
Great, I appreciate
Okay?
that very much. Thank
All
you
right,
so much.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, moving along, and you know what, Reagan, I assume you and Don will stay on top of that, too, you know. This is actually a good program. I like the way this is
Well, the
done.
last one was, I want to see how it differs from the last one.
Well, they're going to do it through, it sounds like they're going to guarantee it through a note directly to the municipality rather than purchase bonds. So, yeah, Mary will have to, I don't think it's quite as, I don't know where the security part comes in, but they'll take a look at that. It's really more on Shanahan, I think, than anything else. So. Okay, next, number 4, resolution of intent to abate certain property taxes regarding Julian Electric, Inc. Chuck listened to this earlier, so.
Yeah, we had I think, a really good meeting with this company. I think they bring a lot of thing to the table. And I know it's in Mike and Steve's district, and they really it's bringing a corporate headquarters, coming from a different county, you know, manufacturing.
Good manufacturing,
and
with a lot of
additional
jobs, with a lot of
And
jobs.
so there's a lot of things going on, and the city actually has brought it forward with this. So I'm going to be supporting this and would like to move to put this on. the
Okay, I got a
agenda.
motion, second by
Yeah,
Frizzle Long.
Question.
I'll get a motion, second. Discussion, go ahead.
I noticed the wages is $12.50. That seems a little low. Is that comparable for these types of businesses that we want to bring in here?
You know, they're bringing in a variety of different businesses and jobs rather, and the wages, we really didn't get into a lot of a discussion on the actual wages that they're having, but we're talking management all the way down to people that are picking parts.
Well, the majority of the
So-
employees are $12.50 an hour. It showed like 50 or 100 people, and I'm sure the other ones are probably more, but is this comparable to what these warehouses are paying, do you know?
They don't.
I think that
It is.
I think those jobs, Tom, and we could probably, I wish I actually had somebody from Workforce here. Is that anybody from Workforce? Pat, come on up for a second. We can talk about this in general, about wages, entry-level jobs, training that they may receive. There's a whole host of things that go into a supportive of a job. It's not just the wage, it's benefits and so forth. $12.50, I think, is a pretty, decent entry-level
Is this
position.
this is a warehouse?
It's actually a manufacturer assembly of electrical components.
The average wage across the whole county is $12.51 of all positions. So it's in the average of all occupations in the county. For warehouses, it's on the higher end. Usually they're around 10 or 11.
So it's good.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Pat. Do I have something on here for you, Pat? You can get this. Yeah, just sit there. Why go back?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I think I'm number 8.
You know, well, we'll get to you quick. So we got a motion and a second on the number 4 abatement. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing renewal of contract, renewal of Comcast franchise agreement. Moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing amended contract with Leopardo Companies, Inc. for additional pre-construction phase services required for the inclusion of the consolidated dispatch center and administrative space for Will County ETSB. Moved. Second. Discussion, go ahead.
No. I was voting.
Aye. I thought you went, no, okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, authorizing amended contract with DLR Group, Inc. to include design, engineering services for a new consolidated dispatch center and administrative space for the Will County ETSB. Moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Hey, Pat.
Now mine.
There you are. Okay. Authorizing Workforce Investment Board contract with Terrafin Corporation for a business grant for employee training. Move, second. Before we vote on this, actually, does everybody, I think we went through this a little last month, but what this program is doing is basically.
And I've been trying to give whoever's district it is an update on what the project is, what they're talking about in terms of training, how many people, how much money we're investing. So you have that information ahead of time. We do still have funds available if you have companies in your district that want to do training for their workforce to move them into other positions.
And by the way, I think this is a great program because I think that very often, we don't do enough for some of those existing companies.
That are already here.
We tend to gravitate towards new jobs and so forth, but to continue a educated, prepared workforce, I think is our biggest challenge. I think it's our largest economic challenge, actually. If you don't have
Good workforce, they're not gonna-
if you don't have a workforce that can actually do the job, the companies don't come. So
It is the number one issue with companies when developers call me, they want to know about workforce.
yeah. So
Yeah.
we have a motion. Do we do the motion on this? Motion second. All in favor?
Thank you.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Unless you want me to talk about somebody else.
No, that's okay. Next, we have declaring vehicle surplus and authorizing disposal. Moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Awarding bid for household hazardous waste collection. Moved by Weigel, second by Suzanne. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, replacement hires for Division of Transportation, truck driver. There's no names. We're gonna, quite honestly, I don't even wanna. I will tell you that I think we also have to have a discussion about doing a hiring freeze where we can, but there's no name. We're not moving this forward at this time. We just hired 3 drivers or 4 drivers 2 months ago. No snow to plow either. So, at any rate, we'll not move forward on that hire. Replacement hire for the Division of Transportation Assistant Manager, same thing. We're not gonna. I don't think we're ready to move that forward.
Can I just make a comment, please?
No.
All right.
No, go ahead, Bruce. Tell me how vital this all is.
These 2 individuals retired, so I'm just.
Good. It's a good thing we hired those other 4.
I'm
It's
replacing
It's a
them.
good thing we had those other 4. You're all prepared. They're all ready to go now. We're going. So I think that you're gonna have to make a strong case with me to approve them. But that's me. Doesn't mean they won't go forward once you give us some names. But I'm not going to be supportive. I'll let it go to a vote. But
Okay, well, if you recall, when we hired the 4, you reduced my levy to only cover 2.
okay, so then we're going to hire 2 more. We're going to reduce your levy even further.
No, that isn't what I'm saying. Tuition, I hold back on some of these hires, so I have the funding
I understand.
available to cover it.
You have a smaller budget for this, and
Yes.
we need to make it even smaller. Tennessee's looking better every
Oh,
day,
it
isn't
is.
it?
It really is. I'm gonna do a 6-year-old before you know it. That's all I can say.
There'll be a vote on it, you just have to convince everybody. We're just not gonna move forward this month. We didn't have any names we have any names?
No.
All right, so we'll wait till you get us some names, okay?
Okay,
All
yeah,
right,
we're in
thanks.
the interview process at the moment.
Okay, all right. All right, so you have some names, you can bring them back. But tell them, don't quit, you should tell them, don't quit their current job yet,
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank
Proclamations,
We have several.
you guys are too soft on these proclamations. Okay, go ahead.
Fourth one, you do the mayor's, children's mental health awareness, that's the only one I didn't know for sure.
Did we find out whether we've done that? We've never done this in the past?
Who this come from, Dale?
The health
Yep.
department, yep, she requested it.
Well, you know, you
We could read it
You
at
can read
the
it from
seat.
the desk.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll do a desk read.
What else do you have?
Okay.
And we have the 8th grade kids coming in from
Okay.
From
Manuka.
Manuka.
Okay, well, you gotta do
And
that.
and those guys are all coming in as
They're all
one,
coming, volleyball and,
cheerleading one
Okay.
stage.
St. Joseph's Parish is celebrating 125th anniversary.
Did we get a hold of the priest?
Yes,
He's
yes,
gonna be
they're-
here?
And he's gonna be
Grace
doing
is
the
doing invocation.
invocation.
And then Reagan had requested a certificate for Kurt Sangmeister. who was
Okay.
retired
Kurt,
Many years. Yes, he is.
Kurt,
Going
you know what? We gotta give him a certificate, plus we gave him all that money? And he gets a certificate too?
You're not putting it- You don't want to bring.
There's the job you want, you know. There's a job. Put your name in
The
there.
other ones
There you
will be
go.
presentations then, I just want to clarify.
I'm sorry, what?
The other
Yes.
ones, those other will be presentations.
And then one-
And then the one read.
Just one.
Okay, all right. Okay, so is there any other appointments to the board and commissions?
Jim.
Those will be going forward.
Jim.
You got a question over here?
Oh, yes?
I'm just, it's a standing objection in regards to the Manuka Fire Protection District. It was one that was brought up before. I explained why before.
We voted on this and turned it down, didn't we?
Yeah, so I'm
Well,
just.
I don't understand that either. Once the board has voted, are you gonna keep bringing it back till we vote a different way?
I guess. I think the term expired, it's up again.
Is that what it is? Okay,
I don't have an objection. Reagan and I are
differ?
different.
That's fine. Okay. I think, once again, let's make your case at the board level and see what happens. Other new business,
Can we have a
other
motion to put
business?
those on the agenda, on the county board agenda?
So moved.
Moved, second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next is under other new business. It'll be a authority of the county executive to execute IGA with Manhattan to transfer eminent domain authority for the improvements of Cedar and Baker Roads. And this is an addition to the county board
Bill
agenda.
Mock is here to give you any information.
Okay, does anyone?
It's
Does-
no cost to the county, they're just gonna use their lawyers and people to do some condemnation for road work they're paying for, but part of the intersection's our road.
Okay, Bruce Gould, are you still out there? Is Bruce paying attention? Bruce, are you part of this project at all?
Jeff Ronaldson's looking over it, he calls me periodically. Oh, Jeff.
I'm just wondering what your involvement in this, of these improvements to these roads. Are you part of this, Bruce?
I defer to my assistant.
Jeff Ronaldson is dealing with that.
You're in the dark, Bruce. Jeff, what's
This is a
what's going on with
development
this?
project that they're doing turn lanes that are required by our ordinance, but they need right-of-way to be able to do the improvements. So the village is looking to get the eminent domain authority to get that right-of-way.
And it's on a county road?
Yes.
Okay. Have we done this in the past? I don't have a problem with it, but I'm just, we have many subdivisions through my district over the years that we've required them to do it.
Well, the subdivision actually went under, and the village took the bond, and now they're
Got
doing the
it.
improvements.
Okay, that makes it different. So this is something they foreclosed on the bond, and the village is now doing the improvement.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. All right. Let Bruce know, Jeff, let Bruce knows what's going on, will you? Okay, we got a motion. Second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, that'll be added to the agenda. Committee reports, Tom?
Two zoning cases. One, Custer Township is a horse farm. They want to go from 9 acres.
Tom, turn on your
Yeah, turn
mic,
it.
please.
It's a horse farm. They want to go from E2 to A1. They have 10 horses. They want to go to 20 horses. But they've already got 20 horses and they're in violation. So this will bring them into compliance. And we've got one legal objection. One of the neighbors is complaining they're not distributing their manure properly. They're putting it next to their house or something. And they're not happy with it. So, but the committee recommends approval of it. And the other one is a special use permit for sports recreation facility in Wheatland Township. Board approved that.
Any questions for Tom? Okay. Finance, Mike?
Yeah, we have the parameters ordinance for the $275 million of bonds. We have, we're increasing appropriation in the sheriff's budget. They got a grant, so hopefully that's fixed by now. They got a grant, we're going to appropriate the grant, and that program will not continue if the grant doesn't come next year. And we're authorizing the county executive to execute necessary documents for the tax program.
Okay, any questions for Mike? Okay, Public Works and Transportation, Don?
We have a variety of different road projects, and we also have $115,000 allocated for additional work on the county's 2040 transportation.
Okay. By the way, I know we can, in the 2040 transportation plan, are we going to put a little bit more emphasis on freight type issues in that
Yeah.
transportation plan?
Yeah, that freight component is a separate part and for the program, considering with the new T-bill that came out, it's a big focus on freight. So we are looking at a lot of freight components.
Related
to this program.
Okay, so we will, in that 2040, then we will be looking on what we can do on the county system to improve freight movement.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Can I ask a
Yes.
question?
Sure.
So are we going to be, as when we're in DC, are you going to be then able to put up a project for hopefully within the year of dollars?
When we met with USDOT officials, they made it pretty clear that the 18-month shovel-ready requirement for most of this grant dollars is still a requirement. So until we get the study completed and see what, in fact, we can put towards some of this grant money, as far as freight is concerned, we don't know that today.
Is there a timeline with the study to be over? Like, do they have?
Well,
The freight's a different,
yeah, but
they're
it's a
separate
5-year,
movement.
it's a
Right, but I
5-year
know-
T-bill.
I know you're doing right now a study, not you, but I know with,
How long will the study?
Well, there's actually, CED is doing
That is
some
correct.
scoping.
CED, well, we're doing the scope of services at the moment. Once that is completed,
And then there's another.
then we're gonna
Okay.
do it. Now, I'd like to see what they come up with, because I don't wanna duplicate what they're doing either.
Right.
So,
but
I'd
they
like-
didn't give you a timeline when they'll be done with that?
I think Ann Schneider's planned on, if you recall.
I think it's gonna be done pretty quickly.
Yeah, pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't gonna take much time. Once we have a scope of services, then we can take a
What
look
we
at
want
it.
to do, Suzanne, as Bruce alluded to, is when they complete their scoping work, because we don't want to duplicate what they're doing, but then we want to take it and look at that, and then as a county, look at, our network and what we believe are our priorities, and then, now, what Bruce is coming at this from a county road perspective. The city of Joliet obviously has their issues, other places around the county have theirs, but from a county, we want to see what they have, and then we want to address it at that point.
Correct. Part of the component also is the urban critical and the rural critical system. CMAP just came out with the urban critical a week ago. And IDOT is going to designate the urban, or the rural critical. They haven't done that yet. So it'd be nice to see what they're looking at as far as our system is concerned with the critical rural. That has a big thing to do with it, because then if in fact some of those roads are designated, I think we have a better chance of
Yeah.
getting some of this money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what
Okay.
we're looking for, right.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thanks, Bruce.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anything else, Don?
No, thank you, James.
Judicial, Darren?
Jim, we have nothing scheduled for this month.
Okay. Public health and safety, we spend enough time on this, shall we not? Judy, what do you have?
That's all.
Okay. Legislative and the policy, Suzanne?
We did not have a meeting this month. only for the fact that, I can only say so many times there's not a budget, as I just screamed vocally
make a motion, that would
not
be
too long
considered.
ago. But I do have good news with our House Bill 1191, which is the quick take. It's on the second reading on the floor of the Senate, and it looks very good to get through. I just talked with Brent Hassard this morning. So that's good news, and I know
You can bring it up. Capital, Reagan?
Nothing, no resolutions.
And you know what, Reagan, we probably have to sit down with you and Mike as vice chair. We need to start working on a process for these projects. The Public Building Commission did agree to send the sheriff's facility back to the county. So now we'll have to decide what kind of structure we're going to have for these projects.
I know we have a meeting today with some of the stakeholders.
This is more of an oversight process.
If I can make it.
So we'll have to sit down and talk about that, and it needs to be on the capital improvements agenda. And actually, if we could squeeze in, if we maybe could squeeze in another meeting this month for capital.
Okay.
I think it might be worthwhile. This would be the only subject.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe you can get back with staff and they can see who would be available.
Month of May.
Yeah.
I am out of the country until the 28th, so I think there's 2 more days the next week.
When do you leave?
I leave the 20th, I think.
She may not come in.
I know. Every time I go away. I think there's
let me talk to you. You know what?
30th and 31st.
It's not that you're not important, because you're very important. But maybe we can have the meeting without you. But
That's
maybe
fine.
you could
But I
call-
know there's,
you could
2 days
call
the
in-
next week,
you
though,
could-
too.
You could call in and listen, maybe.
That's fine.
All right.
Yeah.
On the beach with
They
the
have-
pina colada or whatever.
They don't have
Cuba.
foods there.
Although, well, they got self-service.
28th, if we made it that week right after Memorial Day, that would be the end of the month. 30th or 31st.
Okay, well, let's see what you can work
Yeah.
out. Let's see what you can work
Okay.
out. Okay?
Mr. Musis?
Because some people may go
Okay,
away earlier.
again, Executive Committee, is there any questions for me? Unless somebody wants to, okay, so then,
Question, well, question
Okay.
not for executive. And this goes back to actually the Health
You're right.
Committee's
You're not.
report here. And, one of the things that I wanted to do here with this is not have just those 2 options. I wanted to have a third option. And I think I was premature in voting yes to send this to the full board because I don't think I gave the health department that option to make a change. And so I would like to have a motion, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider sending that forward and keep it here at the committee and have the health department bring back a third option. So I'd like to make a motion for reconsider.
I would second that.
okay. Before we go on, Mary, this is procedurally, we can reconsider a motion
We're
that was made.
still in the meeting.
We're still in the meeting, right? I just want to make sure.
Can you go?
Okay,
Bring
so-
Suzanne back for a vote.
It's got to be someone, the first and second have to be people who voted
In favor.
in favor.
Okay, so I will then,
I'll make the motion.
you can't, because you were on the dissenting side. I'll make,
Can make the motion.
and I'll second it.
You were a no as well.
Oh, I was a no, too.
Brooks, Freitag.
Freitag,
Okay, so.
Freitag made
Freitag.
she was a yes.
Reagan Wolmo, second?
Yes.
Reagan? Yes.
Okay. Here she comes.
So this is a motion to rescind,
To reconsider
to
the original
reconsider,
motion, right?
Yes.
not to send it to the board, to the
Correct.
full board, and have a
Right.
third option.
Correct, because in my last statement, right before this was called, was I wanted a third option. And if I go in and put a second option out there, or just one option, then we have no further discussion.
This is-
So it was to reconsider and
Just
just keep it here.
take the roll.
Okay, Mayor,
Yes.
Benefield,
And this is a motion to reconsider.
To reconsider? Yes.
Brooks,
No.
Freitag, Frizzalone,
Yes.
Gould.
We're going to reconsider the motion that was made to move the option two forward to the full board.
If by virtue of voting in favor of this, are you not going to move that option?
No, you're going to get to vote
Just
again.
wanna add it.
You're gonna get an option, you're gonna, yeah.
Well, you get an option or it may not go forward. Nothing may not go forward, so you have to understand, I want everybody to understand.
That's why I asked the question then.
Yeah.
No.
Hart,
Yes.
Ogalla,
No.
Weigel. And Mustis.
Yes.
Six affirmative, 4 negative.
Okay.
And so now I make a motion to rescind.
No.
Or wait,
You make a motion on that, well, I want to make sure procedure.
well, procedurally, did
Can
we
we make
just?
a motion on the same
To reconsider.
prior motion to reconsider?
You're back where you are now.
Right, nothing, now.
Back at 0.
Nothing exists.
Zero.
You're back at 0, you're opening the issue up again.
Okay, there it is.
So-
So if you,
And a
if
second
you,
to discuss.
yeah.
So there's
So
discussion.
if, so if there's no motion second to bring anything forward,
Nothing happens.
it just dies? Okay.
So we're gonna talk about it?
Right, so yeah, discussion.
So,
I mean, there's nothing there. If somebody
reason-
wants to make a motion, they can make a motion.
Make a motion to.
Someone has to make a motion to take some type of action.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a motion to move option 2 forward.
I want to speak to that. I mean,
I need a
I'll
second.
second. I'll
Second.
second.
Okay.
we're halfway through the fiscal year. I mean, you asked a lot of good questions, totally good questions, okay? But
Turn your mic on down.
But we're halfway through the fiscal year, all right, and a decision's gonna need to be made. We could talk about this for weeks and weeks and weeks. And there's a lot of good questions that were asked, but the fact of the matter is, we don't have the answers at our fingertips. They don't have all the information that the board requires. But in the meantime, there's a crisis, if you will, that's going on, which needs to be addressed. To me, the first option, and I think everybody's in agreement, it's a lot of money, almost $2 million again, okay? The second option, a quarter of the cost of option 1, and I asked her, I said, is this going to get you through your fiscal year? Because they'll have some extremely hard decisions to make coming in that next fiscal year. Is it going to take $426,000 out of your fund? Yes, it will. On the other hand, you have the certainty knowing that you're going to have the next 6.5 months, you'll be funded, okay? The committee should support that, because you can beat this to death for weeks and weeks and weeks. You ought to support this $426,000 and move this issue along. She has her instructions from this committee that when the fiscal year 17 budget comes up, you need to take into consideration the fact that the state of Illinois is not going to fund these certain programs. That's my opinion.
Well, you know, let me say that along those same lines, it's just the repayment of the $3 million would be short that $426,000. Right now, that $3 million shows it's out of our cash balances. So I think our cash balance, even though I think it's at a minimum, I still think is sufficient to get us through our whole tax cycle. So I think in that regard, we'd be okay. I'm going to say that the motion that was made was for reconsideration of the motion, correct? So it wasn't made to rescind the motion. So
For discussion.
Yes, okay.
That's
Okay.
the whole point.
Okay, so let me, Don, you can make a motion?
Judy already
We already did, to move it forward.
Move it forward, was there a second? Okay, so now we'll vote.
Well,
I mean,
discussion here, just, and before I take this vote, which is one of the reasons I wanted to have this discussion, okay? We have departments come to us at the end of the year all the time, asking for additional funds, right? And they have a really accurate, at that point, they have a real accurate idea of what those numbers are. Like you said, we're almost halfway through the year, and in 1 month, she is going, the health department will receive all these funds from the levy. She's gonna get a lot of money. she should be able to, and she already has over $2 million in pocket right now, to be able to pay between now and the time the reserves come in. She has over $2 million available to her to be able to pay her bills. Yeah,
Probably spend it.
no, but what I'm saying is, for the next month, she would be fine to be able to cover her costs until
No.
June.
No.
No, I believe she probably spent most of those.
No. What she has, she spent $3 million in April. She spent $2 million by April 12th and $1 million by the 22nd. But in their cash balance, their current cash balance is $2.6 million. Okay? So they have,
Which includes the $2 million. that-
no, it doesn't.
Nobody's
They've already
spent.
spent that.
Nobody's been
They've
spent.
spent the $3 million that we gave them.
So,
Okay, so my point is, if we've asked a lot of really good questions here, and there is some opportunity for them to take those questions and look at some restructuring a little bit, we can still provide these funds at the end of the year if they need to finish paying stuff off, versus right now doing a shotgun kind of decision. And I feel that this is a shotgun decision because we just wrote them a check in March. They came to us in April, and the only reason they came to us, well, I think Judy has asked to be able to have them come to the committee so that they could start, give us some information on what's going on. And I just think that it would do us and serve our constituents better if we just slow down. It's not to say that we're not going to give them the money when they need it at the end, if they need it. They can make a decision to go forward. So that's all I'm saying.
Let me say, we're not giving them any additional money.
That's true.
They're asking for,
A loan.
they're asking for some relief on the repayment
Of this loan.
of the loan. Now, let me point out, we've done these
Over 3 years.
loans for different departments before.
Yeah.
I think we had like a rotating one at the highway. Maybe it's still there. Every year, we lent them X amount of, $2 million. They would pay it back, and the next day, they would borrow it again, I mean, there's always,
Not out of the corporate,
not the corporate, but you know what I'm
not the
saying.
MFT. But they
Yes.
pay it off at the end of the year.
But, yeah, and then you get it back the next day.
That's correct.
So it's like, it's never really paid. But we know the money's always there if we have to have it back. Don't get me wrong. I guess, and Chuck, I think you bring up a good point in the sense that we, as kind of a matter of almost policy, say to departments, if you fall short,
Guys?
come back at the end of the year and we'll review it. This may be a little different, I think, with the health department, because they're really a separate entity with a separate levy, even though it's in the
And it
corporate.
doesn't mean that we have to even ask
But
them to
anyways,
pay it all back right away.
Well, if they don't pay it back right away, that's basically what we're doing. Go ahead, by granting it. Go ahead, Karen.
In conversation with Debbie, I think that $2.6 million is a little high. It wouldn't include checks that are outstanding that would have been recorded in.
I'm just talking
records.
cash on hand is what they currently have.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily
the
what
book-
they, it's not their liability, that's not
It's
what
a
I'm
book,
saying.
it's a book,
It's a bookkeeping.
it's a book balance.
It's a bank balance, and it would not reflect probably checks that were issued yesterday.
That's why I say it's a book, it's a book balance.
It's cash they have available. It could be 500,000.
It's information that we have as of today.
Look, that's why, and one of the reasons that I supported, and probably will continue to support it, was, well, I supported it, even though I'm a no vote on taking it forward, because there wasn't a majority vote by the committee. So there's a different reason I voted no, but that's why I brought up the point that this would be programs that would be sustainable programs through their levy. So it would not be, we can keep batting around. I don't think anything anybody's going to say here is going to change anybody's mind. So let's take it to a vote. The vote is to take it to the full county board, correct?
The recommendation.
That's a recommendation two. Okay. So we'll re-vote, we'll vote again on that. So take the roll.
Mayor,
No.
Benefield, Brooks,
Yes.
Freitag, Frizzalone, Gould,
Yes.
Hart,
No.
Ogalla,
Yes.
Weigel,
Yes.
and Mustis.
No.
Four affirmative, 6 negative.
So it
So
does
motion
not go
fails.
forward. Okay. No, you know what, before we get to executive session, we do have an executive session that's necessary. Yeah, but Mary, is executive session going to require any action by the board that needs to be on the agenda? Well, then we'll,
Not that needs to be on the agenda.
I can set the agenda now. Okay,
Motion to set the agenda
as amended.
as amended.
Okay, motion, second by Hart. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Is there any public comments? Is there any public comments? Okay, then I will entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of pending litigation. For the purpose of pending litigation. Take the roll, please. Motion, second. Take the
Mayor.
roll, please. Don't put somebody else.
Benefield,